Hello class. Welcome to the class of Building Construction Organization and Management.
Mr. Zhang, you are good at construction. Your scheduling arrangement is professional and well-reasoned. Well, I'm professional at T. Let me quiz you. How can the process of making T be organized? Using a network diagram.
This is not difficult for me. The logical organization of things follows a principle.
Indeed, it's not difficult for you.
So how did Mr. Zhang draw this network diagram? First, you need to know the components of an activity on arrow network diagram, AOA. Then, we need to understand the logical relationships among working activities. Next, let's talk about the components of a network diagram. An activity on arrow network diagram consists of three basic elements: activity, node, and path. In activity on arrow network diagram, each arrow represents a single activity. The direction of the arrow represents the progression of the activity. The tail of the arrow represents the start of the activity. The arrowhead represents its completion. The name of the activity is marked above the arrow. The duration of the activity is marked below the arrow. An activity is a time or resource-consuming subtask divided from a planned task according to the required level of detail. The scope of activities included can be large or small. It can be a single procedure, a work item, or a sub-project, or even a unit project. It is composed of an arrow and two circles. The name of the activity is marked above the arrow. The duration of the activity is marked below the arrow. Activity is usually divided into three categories. One type consumes both time and resources. One type only consumes time but not resources. Both of these are classified as real activities. There is also a type that consumes neither time nor resources, called dummy activity. Dummy arrows are also referred to as dummy activities. It represents a virtual activity. It is represented by a dotted arrow. Its duration must be marked as 0. Dummy arrows can serve to connect, distinguish, and break circuits. It is used to express some interrelationships and constraints between tasks in activity on arrow network diagram. It is a necessary tool to ensure the correctness of logical relationships. There are three types of activities in an activity on arrow network diagram: predecessor activity, successor activity, and concurrent activity. The activity that is scheduled immediately before a given activity is called its predecessor activity. The activity that is scheduled immediately after a given activity is called its successor activity. Dummy activities may exist between a current activity and its successor activity. Concurrent activity refers to the activity that can be carried out simultaneously with a current activity. It is called the concurrent activity of the current activity. Second, nodes. In an activity on arrow network diagram, nodes are represented by circles. It represents the start or end time of an activity. It is the connection point of the activities. In an activity on arrow network diagram, a node marks the start or end of an activity, commonly represented by circles. The node at the tail of the arrow is called the start node of the activity shown by the arrow. The node at the arrowhead is called the completion node of the work. in a complete network diagram, except for the initial start node and the final end node. All other nodes are called intermediate nodes. They have a dual role as the finish point of preceding activities and the start point of succeeding activities. A node is only the connection point of the previous and next activities. It represents just a point in time. Therefore, it consumes neither time nor resources. For the inspection and calculation of the network diagram, it is necessary to number the nodes of the network diagram. The basic rule for node numbering is that nodes are numbered in the direction of the arrows, from the start node to the end node. The start node number of each activity must be smaller than its end node number. No repetition nor omission. Uncontinuous numbering can be used. Reserve some node numbers to allow for future adjustments to the network diagram. Third, paths. In a network diagram, the path formed by a series of arrows and nodes from the start node to the end node along the arrow direction is called a path. In a network diagram, there are generally many paths from the start node to the end node. Each path contains several activities. The total duration of these activities is the time length of the path. That is, the total activity duration on the path. Among all the paths in a schedule project, the path with the longest time duration plays a decisive role in the completion of the entire construction. It is called the critical path. The remaining paths are called non-critical paths. The time duration of the critical path is the time duration of the scheduled project. Critical paths should be marked with bold arrows, double arrows, or colored arrows to highlight their important roles in the network schedule. Activities on the critical path is called critical activity. The remaining activity is called non-critical activity. Generally speaking, there is at least one critical path in a network diagram. The critical path is not fixed. Under certain conditions, the critical path and non-critical paths can shift from one to another. Non-critical paths have some flexibility, known as float or slack time. By making use of the float time in non-critical activities, resources can be allocated more efficiently and the network schedule can be optimized. Today, we mainly study the basic components of an activity on arrow network diagram. Activity, node, and path. Is it clear to everyone now? Einstein once said, "To succeed, you need hard work, the right approach, and fewer empty words. To make a good schedule, we must do the same." Now we learned about the components of an activity on arrow network diagram. It is also essential to master network scheduling techniques. Preparing tea and rinsing cups while boiling water. When the water is boiling, starting making tea with prepared tea leaves and cups. How should this process be represented in Mr. Jar's network diagram for brewing tea? This is the drawing rules and methods of the network diagram. This is for today's class. See you next class.